Salutations, dear audience. Prepare to be inspired and empowered as we delve into the realm of business triumph and elevate your business. I'm Ed Jarecki, your host for today's enlightening episode. Thank you for being part of this enriching experience. Our show is dedicated to enlightening and equipping business owners, professionals, and aspiring entrepreneurs like you with essential knowledge and insights from experts who have achieved success in their life and business. Today's guest exemplifies this mission. Joining us is Natalee Shimerdla. Natalee is an independent certified online business manager for the Prowess Project with a new full-time focus as an entrepreneur and expert in providing project and program management, SAP ERP, organizational change management, business process improvement, and other solutions for optimizing business success. As Natalee joins us on the show, she'll shed light on what success means to her personally and how her definition has evolved over time, as well as one or two of her top challenges and the lessons learned associated with them. And finally, we'll explore how Natalee has leveraged innovation in her business and other work to overcome challenges and achieve her goals. So join me in welcoming Natalee Shimerdla as we embark on another incredible episode of Elevate Your Business. And without further ado, welcome to the show, Natalee. It is wonderful to see you again. How are you doing?
I'm good, Ed. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate being included in this opportunity.
Well, I love it. Thank you so much. I think you've got a very rich background, and I'm excited to get into our discussion. So
For
to start
sure.
with, could you share a little bit more about your business and yourself?
Absolutely. So, as Ed mentioned, my name is Natalee Shimerdla. I really think about becoming a business owner probably, back when I was 6, 7 years old. I think my mom was kind of the influence in getting me started in this space. She would have garage sales, and I always had that itch. I started babysitting at 12 or 13, and I just wanted to find ways to make money. So I'd sell hair bows, I would make barrettes, you name it. I was designing note cards. But as a lot of people do, I graduated high school, went on to college, and stepped right into corporate life. And so I spent about 25 years there in corporate, as you mentioned, project management, program management, supply chain, operations, technology. And around 18 years ago, I took a brief hiatus and really started my first, what I would call real business. And at that time, I had a different focus. I was just getting started as a mom. And I ultimately ended back in corporate for another 18 years. But I always had this itch to really dive into building something of my own. And so around 3 years ago, I had a transitional period and I was really trying to evaluate what it was I wanted to do next. And so I ended up taking a plunge. I ultimately went back into corporate again for another 3 years, but inevitably I started a business as my side hustle. And as you mentioned, I joined Prowess Project and I officially launched my own business, NGSD Services, in April of 2023. And I have subsequently left corporate and am working on that full time.
Outstanding. Great journey.
Yes.
And to start with, so how do you define success today?
Ed, I think success is being able to pay your bills and do the things that you love to do with the ones that you love. When I started 18 years ago, that was probably a completely different focus. And I probably thought success was more about luxuries and things that were more materialistic and the number of dollars that were sitting in the bank. And having corporate as my breadwinning opportunity for so many years, I've been able to build a life for my family that has supported ideas and opportunities that I probably wouldn't have had I not remained steadfast in moving forward. But now, as I think about it, it is more about that intrinsic feeling of helping others and helping myself and building something for my family that I am proud of. And I have been able to be in charge of my own successes and know what is really driving me to not be successful and be impactful to make changes so that I can be successful again.
Yeah. Isn't it interesting on how that journey definition within each one of us changes over time?
Absolutely. Absolutely. life happens, right? So as life happens, it's really about embracing what is in front of you at the moment, and it definitely changes perspective.
Yeah. And some of that's a reality that we don't really understand when we're in our youth.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Definitely not.
And of course, that journey is always wrought with challenges. And especially as a
Absolutely.
business owner, it's incredibly different than working a corporate job.
Absolutely.
And is if the passion is wrapped around it, it really helps. But at the end of the day, it's a much bigger set of responsibilities than a
Sure.
than a specific job or role. And so
Yeah.
with that in mind, what are one or two of your key challenges that you've experienced and the lessons learned associated with them?
Yeah. So obviously, economic challenges that are happening across the world are definitely impactful. Companies aren't starting new projects. They're not hiring at the volume of hiring that they used to. They're trying to find ways to cut costs as opposed to spend money. Well, when you're an independent consultant, it becomes very difficult to find ways to make those companies want to hire you. So it's a lot of lead generation. And so the biggest thing I would say there is that it's really focusing on the niche, focusing on the industry, and then identifying candidates of customers, companies, projects that are going to have what we call ATP and ETP. So ETP is an eagerness to pay, right? Somebody who wants to do something better for their business, themselves, what have you. And a lot of people have this, but they don't necessarily have ATP, right? They don't have the budget. They don't have the authority to say, yes, we can spend money on this initiative at this time. And so my way to overcome that is really to get to know clients and individuals that I'm partnering with and help them understand the value that I can deliver to them. A piece of advice that was given to me early on was you're not selling your services, you're selling resolution to problems. So once you really understand what that client is looking for or looking to overcome, it's a lot easier to tell them what it's going to look like after participating in a project, a partnership, a collaboration, than it is to give them, I sell X, Y, and Z, or I provide this service. So it's really about giving them that understanding of what life is going to look like after the partnership, during the partnership.
Yeah, and I would call that creating an emotional response, right?
Absolutely.
Because people don't buy based on logic, they buy based on emotion, and that
Mhm.
emotion is charged with what is this going to do for me? What is this going to do for my business?
Absolutely. And I think one key thing you said there, Ed, is that doesn't just apply to personal purchases, right? The candy bar that I buy in the last minute aisle at Target isn't going to be something that's going to take me long term, but it also applies to business. And you want to spend your business's money, whether it's your business or you're part of another institution, you want to spend the money on where you're going to get the most bang for that buck and what's going to really make your team, your company feel better and reach the goals that you have laid out for that company.
Yeah, the other thing that you mentioned in there, I tie it at least in some part to relationship marketing.
Yeah,
It's no longer this, I have a product or service, you have a need for that product or service, so therefore you buy my product or service. They buy based on the relationship, based on the trust, the credibility. And that doesn't occur overnight. That takes time. And so there's a lot to
absolutely.
that. You
Mhm.
know, what are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, and I think what is most important is as you connect with individuals and you understand what drives them. You know, we've shared conversations about your future plans and my future plans, and you know that I want to succeed for you as a partner, as a collaborator, because I want you to have those dreams. I want you to be able to have that success. And you find the people that are like you. It's not necessarily 100% match in any way, shape, or form. But when you find your people, when you find the individuals that have the same values and drive and success desires, if it's a fit, it's a fact. And there's really nothing there that feels like selling. So I think that is also beneficial as
You know, when I decided to get into this business, I'm a solution driver, a problem solver, a systems thinker. What
well.
I'm not is a marketer or a salesperson.
Sure.
And that was one of my biggest hesitations in going down this line of business because I don't want to cold call people.
No,
I don't want
no,
to try to sell. But what
no.
I can do is build good relationships and over time
Absolutely.
figure out where there is value. But that comes from the trust and the credibility built through the conversations, through the relationships, and in some cases, going through some challenging times together. So whether that's
Absolutely.
just going through similar economic challenges and sharing and trying to help each other tactically, or whatever that may be, but it's really about building that trust and credibility over time.
Absolutely. And I can totally relate. Not a salesperson. At one point in time, I tried to get into multi-level marketing opportunity and sling some things, and it just wasn't for me. But again, I think I was going about it in the wrong way, Ed. It wasn't so much about making those relationships and focusing on what the end game was for me or my family or that kind of thing. At that point in time, it was just purely about money. How am I going to make a little bit more money this week so that I can take care of X, Y, and Z? And so, as you mentioned, as you've evolved as entrepreneurs and business owners, those things that you intrinsically are driven with are going to impact how you approach partnerships, networking, your content, all of the types of relationships that you are building out there with clients as well.
Yeah. And for those entrepreneurs and business owners out there, this is still an area that doesn't require innate capability. It really is about understanding how you operate today, understanding thyself,
Mhm.
understanding what building relationships is all about, and then finding the tools to practice and modifying the behaviors. All of that, our brains can be rewired to focus in that right way, but it starts with a desire to do so.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And I think that's one of the other things that for me, as I've stepped into this latest chapter in this current business, that continual learning. I've always been
Yes.
driven to understand more. And at times you get into this repetition and you're not really charged to learn more or to drive and understand more. And so part of what has really been important for me stepping into this was dedicating time to continuous learning. And it doesn't have to be, I'm enrolling in a $15,000 learning situation. It's free webinars. What is something I can jump onto this week? Who do I know is hosting an event that I might be able to listen into? And there's hundreds of thousands of them out there, but it's just one more thing every single day that I can learn so that I'm not stagnant. Industry related, technology related, environmentally related, whatever the case might be, just learning one new thing every day has really been a driver in keeping me amped up and moving forward.
A networking conversation I just came out of literally 15 minutes before this session. We talked a little bit about that, and
Awesome.
they've been doing quotes of the day, and
Okay.
somebody goes around, provides definition and a thought, and it really ties back to this: a 1% improvement every day
Yeah.
equals massive improvement over time. In 1 year, you can make substantial progress in more than one area if all you do is have one small improvement every day.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Huge fan of the Atomic Habits concept and book, and a huge follower there, a huge follower of Adam Grant, all of the different things there. But what you said is exactly right. Every single day I take 5 minutes and I do my daily affirmation, if you will. I'm reading a book right now called The Pivot Year, which is really great because as I'm transitioning into this full time, it's been a good reassurance for me. And it's taking one thing out of that every day, and I just have a note card and I just write down one piece that I took away from that, or a training session if I'm attending, or a webinar. You're absolutely right. It's scientifically proven. You will improve so much faster, so much more impactfully to your business if you just take 1% improvement every day. Yeah.
So, shifting the topic to innovation, how do
Sure.
you leverage innovation to help your business success?
I think one of the biggest things for me is, and we have talked about this, we have a common perspective that it's not just technology, right? People think innovation, something new, it's got to be technology. But in my mind, the most innovation happens with flexibility. And again, flexibility doesn't have to be technology, but flexibility is all about, do you allow your team to have flexibility to work the way that they work best, right? So it's being inclusive. We've proved that across the world, we can do work at different times from different continents, whatever the case might be. So, how are you providing a flexible work environment for your team? How are you defining your business processes to be flexible, right? Yes, you absolutely need to stick to the 80-20 principle and Pareto out what is
Agreed.
important to keep business going. But at the same point in time, you also have to have fail-proof solutions because you need to now worry about financial security. You need to worry about cybersecurity as you are considering your business processes. So you have to be flexible in ways that your business processes are going to allow for security in your business along each step in the process. And then I think obviously technology is ever evolving. And so AI absolutely is going to be a driver in this, but it's thinking about how to use AI differently than maybe what you have today. If you are hosting a podcast, you're not using the AI or generative AI to write your podcast scripts, but you are likely using AI to generate your background, to help write a snippet, to put in a blog. I mean, there are different ways to generate or to use generative AI, and it will absolutely save organizations millions of dollars and hours from a people perspective. But you still need the people. You
Yeah.
still need the oversight and the processes in place to make sure that you're not spitting out a bunch of stuff that doesn't sound like, Ed or Natalee as you're producing that content out to your team. So, in my opinion, I would definitely say flexibility is the most innovation that any company can bring to the table, and it spans every aspect of business.
As part of that, for organizations that really have concerns, the tools out there to be able to monitor the systems and solutions that can be applied to keeping a team together, up to speed,
Mhm.
communicating and building relationships. It is so much greater today because we have all these technology solutions at our disposal. But it also includes defining the boundaries for
Yes.
those roles and
Yes.
empowering people within those boundaries versus having to have control of every step. I watch organizations, I read about these things, and there's still too many, in my opinion, too many controlling top execs that just have to control everything. I know there are situations where it's required for one reason
Absolutely.
or another, security
Yep.
in exchange for some of the financial services. I
Yes.
get it.
Yep.
But for a vast majority of the businesses out there, it doesn't require the type of control that you have to have people sitting under your thumb every day.
Absolutely. And there are ways that you can do the things that we used to think that you had to be in person for: a VIP day, a strategic planning session, breakouts. I mean, to your point, the Zooms and the Teams and the whatever collaborative tools that you are using in your organization offer capabilities for exactly that. They know that companies aren't all in one place anymore. And so they needed to build their technology to be flexible with how the workforce was working. And so that's why they've introduced new features and new capabilities to replicate the in-person situation and scenarios that you would need for training, strategic planning, all of the brainstorming sessions, things of that nature. the whiteboards, the breakout rooms, and things like that are there for those exact reasons.
And one of the things we were talking about right before we hit the record button was
Yeah.
the challenges because these companies are making changes to their software, their platforms every day. And sometimes it's
Absolutely.
really hard to keep up with it. So they may be enabling, they may not be enabling. And in that moment, they're pretty frustrating. So
Hmm.
part of this is making sure that we understand what tools we're using, how to use them. But again, these are all just ways in which to guide, lead, and develop teams in a manner that doesn't require people sitting at the desk in front of you.
Yeah.
And it's going to be interesting because over the next 2 years, I don't remember the exact numbers, but it's around 60+% of all the commercial space out there, the leases are coming due.
Yeah.
Those leases were signed early or before COVID started, where
Mm.
prices were much lower than where they're at today. And the big question in my mind is what are these large organizations going to do? We know that there's a risk to the regional banking system in particular because they carry about 30% of all the commercial leases. And so they decide that, hey, I've got to lease this space or I own this building, so I'm going to shove people back into it just because it's space that I want to have it utilized. Or
Mhm.
is there a different thought? I mean, there's affordable housing needs out there and stuff like that. So some of these facilities can be repurposed. But I think that from the conversation we're having, it's going to be interesting, at least from my observation point, to see how this space is utilized and what happens to the overall economy and how that drives changes in the workforce.
In my role as an integrator, it is important for me to understand where everyone's coming from. So if that CEO has a fear and a risk of my team isn't in person, I need to understand, then I, as the integrator, need to help give that CEO visibility to the things that they are concerned about. So you have your standard KPIs, your metrics, profit, revenue, cash in the bank, all of those things. How much do we owe? Those are the things that every CEO is going to want to understand. But there are those other factors. And as an integrator, I need to know how I can tailor reporting processes, system in a way that the individual who is executing executes efficiently, optimally, securely, in all of those ways and is getting their work done. But I also need to know a middle manager has the ability to understand when coaching and guidance is needed, or when we have an A player that we need to think about developing differently. And I need to prepare and understand for a CEO, a CFO, someone of that nature to see progress is being made against these other rocks, if you will, from an EOS perspective, those high level company goals that need to be delivered against. How are we making progress, not just monetarily, but personally, technically, in every single way, so that we're continuing to move that company forward?
Yeah. And one last response to that is there's a lot of business owner CEOs, and really this applies to all, but my focus are business owners. And one of the common themes is they want to spend their time differently, whether that's doing the things with the families that they want or focusing on strategic initiatives for the business, new partnerships, and things like that, common across the board. In order to do that, to your point, yes, the financials is incredibly important. Where's my revenue? Where's my margin? What's my expense trends, et cetera. But there's also all these other things that when it's encapsulated in the right way and available to them on a regular basis, they have an understanding of what's going on. And then with the right culture, the right structure in place, they can make sure that they've got good leadership. It's always evolving and improving. The teams are doing so as well. And this provides them a system to be able to step back away from the day to day and still have a certainty that their business is operating smoothly, delivering to the customer's needs, et cetera. But that requires a different type of mindset and thinking, and their systems. And when I talk systems, people, process, technology, culture
Yeah.
have to be in alignment.
Yes, absolutely. And one more quick just nugget is exactly why I'm in this business. That is why my whole intention is to be able to empower business owners to get back to why they started their business in the first place. If you're a coach, You are impeccably skilled at coaching individuals and helping them develop a strategy, a fitness plan, a wellness goal. If you are a consultant, you are extremely skilled at what you are doing so that you can deliver services to other companies. And so that is exactly why I am an online business manager, is because I want to empower CEOs, business owners, to be able to get back to what really drives them and focus on that passion and have their vision be their day to day, as opposed to worrying about the books and the this and the that, all that back office sort of thing that keeps popping into their heads.
Final takeaway for the audience. If there's one
Sure.
thing that you could tell our audience out there, you really should consider this as part of your business journey, as part of your success journey, what would that be?
Have you heard the story by Rory Vaden about the buffaloes and the cows? Okay. If anyone knows me, is listening to this, they will not be surprised because this is on a lot of my material and social content. But this was shared with me originally from a mentor of mine. Shout out to Ben Cook. And then another, probably a year or so later, my gals at Prowess Project, Ashley Connell and Leah Steinkirk, shared this story again. And it has come to me in so many ways, Ed, that it has to be my mantra, if you will. So I will try to paraphrase this for you, but Rory Vaden tells this story about when storms are rolling in, cows tend to run away from the storm. And in doing so and running away from the storm, what happens is they get hit with the storm full force. They are expending too much energy. And at the end of the day, they really end up having the maximum force of that storm coming at them. Whereas a buffalo will actually run toward the storm. And in doing so, they minimize the impact, they get through it faster, and they have less injury, harm, and all of these things. And so my whole perspective on this is entrepreneurship, business owning is not easy. But
Yeah.
if you are the buffalo and you head straight into the storm, you will minimize the impact and you will come out stronger in the end because you are facing it head on and you are not waiting for things to come to you.
Yeah.
So
Waiting for
that's kind
things
of
to
my
happen to you.
takeaway.
Wow, that is awesome. That's I started laughing because I knew you were where you were going with it. I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, we're the Buffaloes. We better be the
Yes.
Buffaloes or we're in
Yes.
trouble.
Exactly. So yes, be the buffalo, head towards your goals, head towards your vision, and make sure that you're taking your peers along with you as well, making great partnerships and collaborations along the way.
Well, outstanding. Thank you so much for that. That is a great story. I'm going to remember that one. And if you don't mind, I may use that.
Absolutely. Yes. Credit Rory Vaden.
Thank you all for joining us today. And a special thank you to our incredible guest, Natalee Shimerdla, for sharing her insights, experiences, and success tactics with us. We hope this conversation has left you inspired and motivated to embrace the challenges of entrepreneurship with vigor, innovation, and adaptability. Remember, success comes in many forms, and it's essential to define it for yourself. However, take the lessons shared by Natalee to heart as you navigate your own entrepreneurial journey. Embrace change, seek out opportunities for growth, and always be willing to adapt to the ever-evolving landscape of business. Thank you once again to phenomenal guest speaker Natalee Shimerdla, and thank you all for tuning in. We look forward to seeing you next time as we continue exploring the stories behind incredible entrepreneurs. Stay resilient, stay innovative, and have a wonderful day, everybody.